What's going on, everyone? It's Bales, and welcome back to another video on the channel, the first FPL video of the season with the Australian football season sort of wrapping up this past weekend. But I'm joined by a very special guest. You'll know him from the Fantasy Football Hub. He does amazing threads on Twitter, and he's just a legend of a bloke and does his Twitter spaces as well before the deadline every week. It is John Butcher. John, mate, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Pleasure to be here.
Oh, thank you for jumping on, mate. Going very well. We've got some FPL to discuss. But before we get into the game week 4 and sort of the big topics of the week, we'll go through how we went last week. So do you want to kick us off with how you scored and what was your sort of rank and overall rank after game week 3?
Yeah, of course. So I scored 82 points last week. So one of the better weeks, I'd say. I think I went from like 4.6 million to like 400k. So a massive rank rise. Yeah, a massive rank rise. It was just a very good week. You know, when the pennies just fall your way. It was a good week. Obviously, it could have gone a little bit better, a couple of things, but in general, it was a very good week. I can't complain.
Yeah. I didn't have too bad of a week. I'll actually get my temp in the screen in a second, but 61 points, so not too bad.
Solid.
Put me again. I was ranked like 5 million. You've said on your space and stuff before. People have got good teams that just haven't quite fired yet this year, and a few of my players hadn't fired as of yet, which we'll get into one of my spuds of the week when we get into that sec actually. So, but we'll head into that. So, who was your stud of the week?
So mine's Son, because I think that performance was really underrated. I'm going to talk about it later in my thread, but I thought there were a lot of promising signs there. It's almost like Sterling game week 1 and 2. The smaller signs, they were there. Even though the output wasn't. I think his final pass was good. He could have got a couple of assists, good positions. On the ball, he was quite tidy. I was just quite impressed, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, my stud of the week is going to go to Gabriel for not playing, because him not playing meant that I got Udogi's score on the field and I got his 12 points. So I was praying that Arteta wasn't going to bring on Gabriel with like a couple minutes to go, with the score being 2-1. Then obviously Fulham getting the late equaliser. So I was very happy that he didn't play. So Udogi gets my stud of the week. Who gets your spud of the week?
I think we'll give it to Estepinian, because I think people had quite high hopes from him. Obviously, 2 really good starts in the first 2 games. Brighton, obviously, top of the league before this week. And then to get beat 3-1 by West Ham at home, a 1-pointer. From what I heard, I didn't watch the game. He didn't have too many chances either. So for me, probably him.
Yeah, and Brighton looked pretty bad against that real sort of part of the bus style that West Ham have been playing the last couple of weeks. So didn't quite get the returns there. My spud of the week is actually going to be your stud. It's going to be Son. But this is more just like a to prop him up, get him revved up for the week, because I started him at the start of the year and he hasn't returned for me yet, which is not great. When he was a bit of a unique at 9 million, I was hoping maybe to get bit crafty in the midfield, but unfortunately it hasn't paid off. But I'm probably going to hold him with a couple of good fixtures coming up. So, but yeah, this is the current side that I'm rocking with here. If people want to see how I went last week, so there we go. We've got Sanchez there, Udogi, Estupinian, Chilwell, Saka, Rashford, Son, Martinelli, Matoma, Haaland captain, which pretty much everyone's got this stage, and I've got Jackson. Then my bench was pretty awful as well from this past week. So, but yeah, we'll head into sort of the key issues for the week. So I think a lot of people, John, are talking about, do you go Maddison? Do you go Sterling? Who are you leaning to out of those 2 players? And if so, would you be trying to look at bringing them in this week?
Yeah, so I definitely try and get both in this week if possible. But my preference is Sterling, and I wouldn't. It's not miles apart, but for me, it's not particularly close either. I'd definitely go Sterling if I had to go one of the 2. If you want to look at the fixtures, first of all, he's got Liverpool and Arsenal in game week 6 and 7. That's not brilliant for him. Obviously, Liverpool can be an okay one. It could even be a good one, but still, it's just one of the harder fixtures. Whereas Sterling's got a nice set block of 5 really nice fixtures, and then you can move him on after that. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is just like how they get to their points. Obviously, Maddison, I know he scored against Bournemouth, but it's still going to be more of the assist-orientated stuff. Like, he'll get more assists and goals probably this season. Whereas Sterling, I think he's paramount to how many goals Chelsea can score. and I like the fact that he's going to be the one going for goals rather than being in earlier phases of build up.
Yeah, what did you like about Sterling's game against Luton? Obviously, played really well. Again, it is against Luton, but what did you like of his performance on the weekend?
I mean, he got me 19 points for basically everything. I mean, it was more so the role and like how much responsibility. I think the latter especially. He's taking the ball from not deep areas, but not super advanced areas, and he's driving into those areas. He's finding himself in the box. He's like, you can just tell like when the pattern of the play is occurring, it's very much orientated in a way where either Chilwell gets in behind and you feed him, or you give it to Sterling in the right half space and he goes from there. If it's not going to Jackson to hold up, so and I like that. I like the fact that he's got so much responsibility, and you can tell by his quote, and you can see it in the game. He's not playing with his back to goal. He's taking it from slightly deeper and going forward, and I like that. I think it's good for him scoring goals.
Yeah, he's very, very good, and it pained me to watch because I was really considering going someone like a Rashford who did all right, but could have got an extra sort of, 12 points or whatever it ended up being. But we'll stick with the Chelsea chat because I know you are a Chelsea fan as well. Gusto is obviously another highly sort of transferred in player this week, but Reece James is sort of not too far away. So would you sort of be a bit cautious with people looking to bring him in?
Yeah, I think it's a very traditional case of don't buy, don't sell. I like, if you've got him, you've got to start him, like Forest at home. Forest definitely got a goal in them, by the way. Definitely got a goal in them. But you still have to start him at probably depending on how like deep your squad is. But if you have, I imagine you'll have Estepinian, so you can just bench Estepinian and play Gusto. I wouldn't buy him though. I think with Reece coming, as soon as Reece is fit, he gets into the side, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like he almost rushes himself back sometimes. So even if let's say Reece plays 2 games and then misses out, that's 2 like games of a good fixture set that Gusto's missing. He blocked a third Chelsea asset as well, and that's a big thing. No Sanchez and no Sterling, no Cobble either. So I'm like, just a classic case of don't buy, don't sell.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I don't know. Has there been an actual sort of timeline when Reece James is meant to be back? Is it meant to be in the next fortnight or so?
Yeah, so I've heard game week 5, and if he's back game week 5, you get 1 game out of him, and I really wouldn't be surprised if Forest score. So yeah, for me, it's just like no, don't buy, don't sell.
Yeah, and then Nicholas Jackson, is he still a good buy after getting his first goal on the weekend? Was a bit wasteful with some chances there, but what are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I think he's one where like it's a good buy, but you have to manage expectations slightly. Like he's not Haaland, and he's half the price of Haaland for a reason. He's not going to be bagging like braces week in week out, even with these great fixtures. Maybe he'll get closer to it, but you can't have the same expectations from Haaland. But if you're getting like 1 return a game from him across like consistently, it has to be consistent given how good the fixtures are. I think that's very solid, and you'll get a haul. You'll probably get a haul in the next 4, I imagine, especially given that like 2 of the games are at home as well. I think you'll get a haul, and I think you should be quite satisfied with that.
Yeah, and it was good to finally see him get his first goal, even though it was tap in, but doesn't matter how you score them as long as you put them in the back of the net. That's all that matters. A couple of other sort of interesting players that managers are bringing in this week. So in defence, you've got Udogie and Romero are 2 solid options there. Then you've got like a Matty Cash who's got a bit of a difficult fixture this one, but I have seen a few people like the switching of Estepinian and Cash. So sort of any of those 3 options appeal to you, maybe even a Ben Chilwell in there as well.
So Estepinian, Cash, and who else, sorry?
Estepinian, Cash, and Christian Romero.
So I prefer Udogie to Romero, so that kind of just rules him out. I guess you could go double Spurs defense, but I wouldn't with the way they play. I think one's enough, especially when you're the attacking fullback. Estepinian, I'm going to try and just keep him. I'm not sure. Is he 5.3 million now?
I believe so. He went up 5.3 currently at the moment.
So like if you're going to sell him now, you're selling him at 5.1. You have to buy him at 5.3. That's already a 0.2 loss. He's someone that can score in any fixture, never mind assist. And it's just easier to keep him. Like with the way the game is structured, you can have 3 other good defenders that have a nice rotation. You play Estepinian in game week 6, and then you kind of just keep him till his good fixture run in game week 10. Now I know that's a long way away, but it's not that difficult just to keep him on the bench. And if he needs to play, so be it. Like, yeah, sure, the fixture's not ideal from a defensive standpoint, but he can get attacking returns, and he will in the next like 6. So I think just keep him. And the other one was Matty Cash. For me, not yet. I think they've got Liverpool this week, so
yeah,
there's other transfers that need to happen. But in terms of going forward, I can understand why he become a really good option. But when you got Liverpool away, you kind of just leave it, and then we'll see after the IB.
Yeah, I agree. Moving into the midfield, so we talked about Sterling and Maddison before. You got Bowen as a 1 week play. Obviously, you got Luton this week. Then I think he follows it with Man City and Liverpool in back-to-back weeks. So, what are your thoughts of a 1 week play with Bowen?
Yeah, so I appreciate the narrative almost that going away to a relegation threatened side, can be really difficult, especially under the lights. And I don't think it's going to be particularly easy. But I still expect West Ham to win because at the end of the day, they are a better footballing side than Luton, with all due respect. So I understand it from that standpoint, but it just seems so 1 week to me because you've got City next, and I believe it's Liverpool after. There's so many good options, and then he may struggle because it's away. They have a few routes to goals now in Antonio. Kudus, if it starts, Prowsey started well. So I think for me, it's close, but I'd leave it. It just seems like a problem down the line. You just don't want that.
Yeah, and I guess if you get forced transfers, then you might get stuck in holding him, and then he's got obviously difficult fixtures. So, and then Mbuemo is the other one that was interesting. I'm actually contemplating getting him this week because I like his fixtures for the next probably sort of 6, 7, 8 weeks. So you don't mind bringing him in?
I do a little. I'm not as keen as everyone else is on Mbuemo. I think this fixture's a good one. But Raiola's not naive. He didn't achieve what he did in Spain by being naive. If you look at like 3 games in particular, the game against Bournemouth played Liverpool away, Spurs at home, and you've seen, and then you've got the 2 Spurs games, right, which are 2 Brentford games where they played Spurs, and last week they had Palace, right. They did well against the transition-based side in Spurs, but they struggled against the low block. Same with Wolves. They did well against a transition high pressing side, and Bournemouth have struggled with their high press against good teams. So I think if he assesses that, it makes a lot of sense just to kind of lock up a bit, have your blocks a little bit deeper. And I think if he does do that, then I don't think Brentford are necessarily the best side to break down that block. And I think he might. I think he might abandon his approach for this game because it makes so much sense from a tactical perspective. And then I think going from there, is Mbuemo really that good an asset? After this is Newcastle away. And then the fixtures aren't, I don't think, as good as people say. I understand on the FDR it's a bit of green, but I think they're if you look at them a bit closely, they're a bit harder than people say. So for me, it's a calculated risk to avoid him.
Yeah. Well, I've considered him, but maybe that might be making me rethink that a little bit. We'll have to see. But then we'll go into the sort of the most transferred out, just some issues there. So Onana, as a Man United fan, we won on the weekend, but I'm still not confident with us keeping clean sheets. I know that you were pretty much on that same wavelength in the preseason as well, that you weren't as confident as Onana being an asset. Then you've obviously got Shaw, who's been ruled out, obviously transferred by he's got to go. Gabriel is the interesting one. So what's going on with Gabriel? I've got no idea what's going on with him.
Yeah, so it's difficult to judge whether it's tactical or whether it's an off-the-pitch reason. But either way, for me now, if I owned him, I want him gone ASAP. I sold him last week for Guardiola, one of the only reasons I did that is because I was on a flight when he was going to drop. So I was like, okay, I have to do this before. And I actually thought it was a mistake. On reflection, I thought it was a mistake. I think I just got lucky with that one. I don't think it was a particularly good move, but I just got a bit lucky. But for me now, it just seems like such a headache. Obviously, I'd still prioritize the midfield transfers, but after that, get rid of him.
Yeah. As a Man United fan, I sort of think he starts this week. It's too big a game. They just drew on the weekend to Fulham. Obviously, conceding that late equaliser. He played every game last year and didn't miss, and he sort of hadn't started any of the first 3. He's come on a sub in 2 of them. So I'd like to think he starts, but yeah, I think obviously, as you said, if you can get rid of him, you can go. Van Dijk, obviously, red card. Is that a 3-week suspension or is that a 1 week? I'm not sure. I haven't seen anything with that.
I saw that he's going to maybe get charged by the FA or something for how he was a bit mouthy towards the ref. But yeah. I think it's a 1 game thing, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah. So, well, he's got to. I think he'd probably still go anyway. And then there's a lot of heap injuries here. Like Akanji is sort of pet rotation. You're not sure if he's going to start week to week. Varane's injured, Botman. So plenty of injuries there. Going to the midfield, Rashford, are you keen to offload him after a couple of assists on the weekend? He played on the left, which was where I think he's best suited to.
Yeah, I agree. He's definitely best suited to the left. Similar to Mbuemo, I think it's a bit of a calculated risk to maybe sell him up. I'm not 100% decided yet, but I don't love him as an asset. In my first draft that I was actually happy with in preseason, there was no Rashford. And the only reason he even came into the side was because Kane left, so I had to abandon that draft completely. But yeah, for me, I don't mind selling him. I think United are struggling at the moment. And I might look, it's such a tight call, but I'm starting to honestly prefer Bruno to Rashford now from what I've seen. I think it's close, but I kind of just want him gone.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. But United just a bit all over the shop. Haven't liked what we've done in the first few weeks, even though we did get the win on the weekend. Matoma. So I'd look at his fixtures. They're very hard over the next 6 weeks. I think he's got Everton or something in between a few of these fixtures, but there's a lot of tough ones. Would you be a fan of selling him, especially as well with Ansu Fati coming in for Brighton? Maybe that's an extra player to add into that rotation.
Yeah, so I have no idea how they're going to manage that. They have so many players now. They've got March, Gross, and Pedro, Welbeck, Ferguson, Odringa, Matoma, Fati. So many. So yeah, maybe he gets a bit of but I know that De Zerbi really rates Matoma. Like he always talks about how he's the one with a bit of star quality, and that's why he kind of leaves him on. So I think his minutes will be okay, but yeah, I quite like selling him. More of a reason because I'm not convinced by his output. And I'm not also convinced by those fixtures. I think they're quite difficult, so I would get him gone.
Yeah, and then you got the Arsenal duo of Martinelli and Odegaard. They're obviously coming up against United this week. Your thoughts with transferring them out or holding?
Yeah, so I think it's tough. I personally can't transfer Martinelli out yet without seeing how Arteta sets up against a quote unquote bigger side. And like with all due respect, Man United are definitely better than all the 3 teams that you've played so far. He's had to play this same game almost 3 times in a row. He's played a very compact low block, not too much threat on transition, which is something they've all had in common. Whereas United, even if you set up in a low block, which you probably won't, you still have a major threat on transition, albeit like you have your problems there, but you've still got Rashford, right? And like he's a fantastic outlet in that sense. So I think you have to give Martinelli one more go because he's the perfect counterpunch to United's system. Like if they want to play a high line, if they want to press high, if they want to try and win the ball up high up the field on turnovers, he'll kill you. So I think for me, I got to give him one more week. And then Odegaard, I'm going to give him one more week as well. But he's more dispensable, in my opinion, than Martinelli. Plus, he's more expensive.
Yeah, I'd agree. Eze, I think was it you were saying that you're actually sort of warming to him as an asset of bringing him in.
Yeah, I mean, he like assets like him are just so safe in the sense that if you have a good fixture run, which he has a decent fixture run, he's on penalties, 90 minutes, complete talisman, right? Like the definition of that. They're always going to do decently well. Like they won't do badly. It's just how well can they do. I probably won't buy him just because there's so many other good options, but I really don't mind it. I think like the 2 assists midweek, good for his confidence. I'm sure a haul is just around the corner, or at least a goal. But I feel like when he scores, he's going to get a decent amount of bonus anyway.
Yeah, he's one I've considered as well. I don't mind him as an option. Then you've got Salah there. It's been transferred by a few people out. Is that a good option maybe to free up some funds to use elsewhere?
I think the Villa game is actually a pretty decent one for him. You know, I think like if Villa seem quite brave, they'll take a team on punch for punch. Suit Salah's style of play, so I wouldn't mind keeping him this week. Actually, like obviously if you have to get rid to like improve the squad elsewhere, for example, sell Pedro and Salah for like Jackson and Sterling, then yeah, I get it. I wouldn't mind keeping him this week. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. He's an expensive asset, but we know how good he is, and he can score against any team. And as you said, Villa could be a pretty nice fixture. He could maybe get some return there. And then moving into the forwards, João Pedro. I'm assuming you just got to probably get rid if you can facilitate a move there.
Yeah, I think we call it a luxury transfer, right? Like if you can get rid, then like you're in a fantastic position first of all, and then do it. I think Semenyo from Bournemouth. Apologies if I mispronounced that, but I think he at 4 or 5 is just gold dust. He looks like gold dust. But yeah, I think it's a very luxury transfer, and for most, I think it's just like keep him on your bench. And yeah, I'm going to try and play him game week 6 though, and I think he'll start against Bournemouth at home. So that's kind of what I have in mind.
Yeah, that's the hope, but it has been frustrating after such a promising start, sort of back-to-back benches, and hasn't done too much else. And then the other one is Ollie Watkins been transferred by a few out. I think he's got an assist in every game. He's got 5 points in every game. So I feel like that there's just been unlucky. Could have scored a couple of chances here and there. So what are your thoughts with him? Would you still be holding him?
Watkins is a tough one because I actually don't think it's unlucky with him. I think like with all the greatest respect, it's more so poor finishing because we've seen it for such an extended period of time where like he'll get so many good chances, but he just doesn't put them away. I just don't think he's as ruthless as other players. But saying that, like he is a very good player, he gets himself in very good positions. It's a very nice fit in that Villa system. So I think it's another one a bit like Gusto, maybe don't sell, don't buy. Liverpool way is not. Things he might abandon that like the super high line with Van Dijk gone. If I had to like choose, I would sell him, but I don't think it's the worst choice in the world to keep him. I wouldn't buy him for sure.
Yeah. No, I didn't start with him. Went Jackson over him, and I'm pretty happy so far with only the sort of 3 assists. But you never know. Maybe down the line I might reconsider him, bringing him in. So, is there any other players that we haven't discussed that transferred in or out that you sort of like as an option, or to transfer out you don't like as an option?
Foden a bit. I think Foden's a really good option. I like him a lot. I might even buy him. I like him a lot. I think one thing I really like is now Walker, if he's going to continue, and he's done it for the last 2 games, playing high and wide, it allows the right winger to maybe operate in the half space more. It's better for their output. They get on the ball a lot more, better positions they take up. It's just a really good thing in general. So, and if he's going to play there, he could be devastating there. I watched the Newcastle highlights back because I was on holiday during the game, and he looked amazing. Like it was the positions he was taking up rather than the performance that I really liked. So yeah, I really wouldn't be surprised if there's a pretty big haul on for him this week.
Would you put him below Maddison or Sterling and Maddison, or where would you sort of fit him in?
I think Sterling's one. I think the case with Foden is always expected minutes. Like it's just the expected minutes thing.
Yeah.
I actually wouldn't mind going him over Maddo. I really don't mind going him over Maddo, but for me, Sterling's top dog at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. And he's the cheapest one of the 3 as well. And
yeah, exactly.
He looked very good on the weekend. If he continues that and get back to that form we saw a few years ago, then he can be a very, very good asset 7. And he's going to rise up in price a lot if he keeps doing what he did on the weekend. So, so what transfers are you looking at doing with your side this week? We've got early thoughts because I know I'm a fan of leaving mine sort of late in the week to sort of get all the information possible. But what are your early thoughts with have you got 1 or 2 free transfers?
Yes, I'm the same as you. Like, I prefer as much information as possible. I usually make my transfers whilst I'm hosting the space, so I'll do it maybe at like half an hour before. But saying that, this week I just want to make sure I avoid the price drop on Rushy because I think I'm going to sell him, and I've got 1 free. So that's kind of like where I'm looking to go. It's going to realistically be Foden or Son. I'm leaning towards the latter at the moment, by quite a bit. So. Yeah. But yeah, I want to make sure he doesn't drop. But I want to make sure I get as much information as possible.
Yeah, well, I hope Son, if you get him, I hope he works out because then it'll work out for me as well. Because it's not been a good, it's not been a good start. So, in terms of my early thoughts, I'll just pop my team back on the screen again. So, this is how I'm currently looking at lining up. I've got 2 free transfers. So, my current thoughts. I've got Gabriel there, but I feel like I want to get in a couple of midfielders. So, my early thoughts was Martinelli out for Maddison and then going Matoma to Mbeumo. That was my early thoughts. But after hearing what you're saying, I thought maybe I could go João Pedro down to, what was it got the Bournemouth striker's name? Yeah, Semenyo. Put him on the bench there and then use that million to go Matoma up to Maddison or whatever. Because I would like Sterling, but unfortunately having Jackson, Chilwell and Sanchez there, I can't quite facilitate a move to bring in
you could always go Matoma and Rashi to Foden and Maddo if you wanted. That could be an option.
Yeah, it's a good option, yeah.
But you're a United fan, so you're not selling Rashford, are you?
Yeah, no, I've got to try and remove my bias away and sort of just go, is Rashford going to return against Arsenal?
He's not a bad option, though, in any capacity. He's a good option. Not even, not just a bad one, but he's a good option. But just currently, for me, I'm not super bullish. But he's a good option.
There's other options, better fixtures, because Arsenal ways, obviously.
I might buy him back, in literally a week. I considered even buying him back in Game Week 5 because of how the game's structured. So, I don't think he's a definite sell by any means.
Yeah, because part of me wants to get Sterling, so I would just sell Sanchez. But last week I got Sanchez in for Pickford. It'd sort of be a bit weird if I'm going another goalkeeper again and just sort of switching. So yeah, I don't know if you'd prefer that, but I think I'm probably going to stick with the midfield switch.
Yeah, I think it's good.
Yep, sweet. So, perfect. Well, I think that'll pretty much about do us. So, is there any other closing thoughts that you had before we let everyone go?
This is your first FPL stream, right?
Yep.
Well, I think you've done really, really well. I think you're a really, really good host. That's just what I wanted to say.
Thanks, mate. It probably does help that I've got my sort of Australian football podcast, so that sort of tends, and I host that. So, but no, I appreciate the kind words, man. But where can the people find you, man? Obviously, you've got your threads on Twitter as well, and then obviously the Fantasy Football Hub Twitter Spaces about an hour and a half before deadline as well.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at FPL_GMBactra. There's threads, and then I work for Fantasy Football Hub as well. So you can catch my deadline spaces there and my team reveals as an article on the website.
Yeah, no, guys. If you, well, I know maybe people that are listening in Australia, it's normally early in the morning, but I'm always up anyway because I just love listening to the Twitter space. But make sure you guys do listen to the space and the threads that Jan puts out there as well. It's very, very helpful. A lot of information there. So make sure you check him out. As always, you can find me at BalesDT on Twitter and trulybailshd on YouTube. All my socials are in the description below. Make sure you leave a like on the video if you enjoyed the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're trying to reach 1,300 subscribers. We're, I think, 31 away. So if you can hit the subscribe button, that'd be very much appreciated. And yeah, we'll catch you guys next week. I'll have, I think I'll have a couple of Australian friends in, Jake and Mini Monk, jumping on to chat Game Week 5. And hopefully you all have a Game Week 4. So, Jan, good luck for Game Week 4. And we'll chat to you guys next week. So good luck, guys.